The pub was slow today, which was a good thing since one of my co-workers was nowhere to be found. Hey, Ashley, where's Brendan?
Oh, I'm covering for him.
She flicked a nervous glance at the empty end of the bar. How can you cover for him while you're doing your own job at the same time?
Oh, well, it's not very busy, and he said he had something really important to do. You would help me out if I had to go somewhere, wouldn't you? It's the nice thing to do.
I would if you asked me, but not for Brendan.
Well, I guess that's why he didn't ask you then.
Can't you see he's taking advantage of her good nature? Oh well, it's really none of my business. Until it is one day. Until it is. Hi? Hey, Flynn! Ozzy burst into my room in almost the dead of night, and I jumped 10 feet in the air. Oh dang, he's shirtless though. What the hell? What are you doing? Changing your life, that's what I'm doing. It's time to party, Mr. Responsible. So, are you going like that? I blinked. For the first time I realized Ozzy was made up to the nines. And bending over in a way that was giving me a good look straight down her cleavage. And I was not entirely dressed. I swallowed and looked away in an effort to be polite. Where are we going? To the clubs, of course! You haven't seen the nightlife yet, have you? You need a proper guide, someone who knows downtown like the back of her dainty little hand. I'm your girl. She was certainly not my girl. We'd barely spoken in the weeks I'd been living here. All of a sudden, she wanted to take me out clubbing? I have work tomorrow. So do I. Are you just gonna let England get away from you because you have stuff to do? Yep. I guess I am. Sorry. Ugh! I don't know what I ever saw in you. With that, she stormed out of the room. At least now I could sleep. Priorities, man. Sleep, clubbing. I was walking down the hall when I heard a series of loud bangs coming from one of the rooms. That was Danny's room, wasn't it? What was he doing in there? Could have been construction or repair for the hostel, but it didn't quite sound like hammering. More thumps than thuds as if he were beating on something with his fists. He was probably just kicking a football around in his room or something.
But there was this time in sixth form.
Oh, here we go. At Peggy's words, everyone in the room became intensely focused on the meal Ashley had prepared for us. Peggy didn't seem to notice the disinterest.
Stephanie was on and on about how she had this horse back at the manor. Seriously, she said it like that. The manor. And a saddle with diamonds on it. And we thought she was a right twat, as anybody else probably would. But then her parents actually brought her horse around and it really did have a diamond saddle. Titchy little ones like you'd see on a handbag, right? Either diamonds or rhinestones, but her family was proper flush, so I think it really was diamonds. Totally bling. And then this other girl, Donna, I can't remember, tried to nick it. Not the saddle, the entire horse. She got on when no one was looking and just rode off. Of course she got herself nicked then, and the fuzz brought her back crying all over the place. God, she was the worst. I remember one time she caught on to a boy named Alexander who was dating another girl in the form. Peggy! I jumped. Peggy stared wide-eyed at Aussie, who had slammed her fist onto the table. I'm sick of hearing about your sixth form. Do you think any of us care? We don't know these people. We will never know these people. We do not care about these people. Most of these stories aren't even interesting. The diamond saddle was a little interesting.
Oh, so she's 1 for 12. Let's give her a round of applause. Aussie glared at Ashley, who looked away. I swear, if I ever have to hear about your sixth form again, I'll smack you across the face. Learn to read the room. Maybe if you did, you wouldn't be so bloody annoying. Finished with her tirade, Aussie grabbed herself another helping of noodles and took her plate and left the room.
Boy, that was mean, wasn't it?
We avoided her eyes.
Wasn't it? She was out of line, wasn't she?
A stiff silence met her question. After a few seconds, Ashley squeaked up.
She was definitely a little harsh, if you ask me.
Right. Peggy fiddled with her fork for the rest of the meal, which didn't last very long. Suddenly everyone grew ravenous and finished their food in moments, at which point they hastily shuffled out of the room. I hurried to join them. I woke with a shudder. I'd had a terrible nightmare about getting trapped in the Eurotunnel on the train between England and France. Stuck down there in the dark with the entire English Channel over my head. Gah! Rubbing my eyes, I crawled out of bed and started to get ready for the day. I had just pulled on my clothes when there was a light rapping against my door.
Flynn?
Yes? The knob turned. Shit, I forgot to lock it when I went to bed? Before I could grab for it, Jihyo burst her way in. Hey, I need a favor. Ah! I didn't give you permission to come in here! She looked me up and down, an eyebrow raised. Well, you're not naked. What's the problem? I nearly was, though. Oh, that's not that big of a deal for guys. You're half naked in public all the time. Maybe some guys are, but... Anyways, I need your help on a painting today. I was hoping you'd come with me. Me? Really? I frowned, scratching the back of my head.
Immediately forgets that he was almost naked.
So you need someone to carry your stuff? She crossed her arms. Come on, I'm not like that. No, I need your presence near me. I want you to join my flow. That sounded a little... I won't keep you more than a few hours. And it's your day off, too. So, please. How did you know that? I have my ways. She grinned and I again found myself wondering about her. Her personality was so hard to pin down. Had she asked around to find out about my schedule? Was she interested in me? Did I want her to be?
I want her to be this time.
Not this time. She frowned. Really? I mean, if you have other plans... It's not that I have other plans, really. I mean, I do. I do have other plans. Ugh, smooth Flynn. She clasped her hands together behind her back and laughed. Yeah, it was silly of me to think... Anyway, I'll let you get to your, engagement. Thanks. It wasn't that I didn't like Jihyo at all, but she was a little strange, and I didn't really want to spend my free day with her. No hard feelings? She shook her head at me, though it looked more like a shake of annoyance than a gesture of reassurance. I'll see you. Well, that was awkward.
Extremely.
Thank you for your help. No problem, Angie. That is not my name. I know, man. I know. He grinned and Angelo walked away, shaking his head. Danny, can I... As soon as he noticed I was there and that we were alone, Danny left the room. Danny had been avoiding me lately. He still spoke to me as if things were normal when we were surrounded by other people, but every time we had an opportunity to speak privately, his smile fell and he ran from me as fast as he could. This time, however, I decided to tail him.
It's happening.
You can't avoid me forever, Danny. He stopped to look at me and shake his head, then disappeared into his room. Danny! I stood outside of his bedroom door. Please talk to me. I'm not going to hurt you or anything. I don't bite, and I haven't punched anyone since elementary school. His voice was only slightly muffled by the door between us. You've punched someone before. Yeah, in the stomach. He threw up afterwards and I got in loads of trouble. I felt bad. Ace. So you'll talk to me then? His door cracked open a bit and he stuck his face through. Depends. What exactly do you want to talk to me about so badly? You and I, we've never really talked. No, I suppose we haven't. But isn't that reason enough to do so now? I have some questions for you anyway. He grimaced and pulled the door open wider. My guess is that you won't leave me alone until you get whatever answers you're looking for. Is that about right?
Yep.
Yup, definitely. You don't seem like the type to get tired or bored, and I'd rather not feel like I'm dancing around mines when I go for a snack. I grinned, feeling only a little bad for pestering him so much. Alright, but we're not having this conversation here. I don't want anybody else to overhear this. We walked to a cafe, making idle chit-chat on the way over. At least I made chit-chat. Danny looked almost constipated, he was so closed up. I had no idea what was making him so nervous. It was like he already had an idea of how this conversation would pan out, but he didn't even know what I was there to ask. We sat at a table up against the front window, me with a minty mocha and him with some kind of fancy black tea. Danny sipped his drink politely, looking like a medieval knight or an aristocratic gentleman. He had that kind of effortless poise and grace that other men would be desperate to emulate. So, Flynn. I perked up. What do you think of me, really? What do you know about me?
We did this with Malia. I wonder if we should do this with... I can't remember if I did do this with Malia as well. On, like, the neutral end or something. Can't remember. It's really hard to mess up with Danny. It's pretty easy to get his endings. Let's make Flynn a little more gullible.
I told you before, you're an all-around great guy. You're smart, you're attractive, you're considerate, you have hobbies, you're a team player, you hold the hostel together almost single-handed. And for some reason, despite all that, you've got a self-confidence problem. I don't know why. Maybe your parents were too hard on you when you were young. Maybe you screwed up once and you can't stop blaming yourself. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. That's where you're wrong. It's hard when nobody around you knows. Sometimes I completely forget that it ever happened, and sometimes it's all I can think about. Everyone here smiles and laughs so easily. It's like they've never struggled. They've never been someone bad. Now is your chance to turn back. We can pretend this never happened. Sometimes you really do wish you had never known something. No, I definitely want to know. I'm sure it's fine. Don't say I didn't warn you. I won't bother asking that you think well of me after I tell you, especially because I'm still... Some parts I will never explain more than what I will say now. Stop acting like you know how I'll react. It's annoying me. I suppose. Well then. He folded his hands on the table and took a deep breath. I spent years in a young offenders institute, top security. I won't tell you exactly when or where or why. It was all committed under a different name, and I will not tell you what my birth name is. What I did was bad enough that I was granted anonymity when I was released, to prevent anyone from tracking me down to get revenge. Merry Bell Order, they call it. The Danny you know now is very different from the person I was before I got locked up, and even for a time after I came out of it. It took a while for me to face the bad parts about myself. I think about it sometimes. Everyone acts like it's so easy for them to be good. I wonder where I went wrong, or what was wrong with me. What is wrong with me that makes it so tempting? But I digress. There it is. That's why I don't think I am a good person. Because I know I am not. But I am also not the same person I was. I have made vast improvements. I am safe to be around. I won't hurt other people. You don't need to worry about that, although I understand if you don't trust me. He took a sip of his tea, then met my eyes for the first time in days. So, That wasn't what I had expected to hear. Not at all. Considering he didn't want to tell me why he went to jail, I had to assume it was for something seriously bad. And while he was a child at that, what did he do? The fact that he was okay with me assuming the worst, murder or... Did that mean he had done it? Did that mean he had done worse than the worst? But he was sitting expectantly in front of me, waiting for a response. Suddenly, the friendly and controlled exterior he always showed around the hostel, the concern for and awareness of others' needs, made sense. He taught himself how to behave that way precisely because it was not natural for him. In all the time I'd known him, he had been nothing but kind and chivalrous. A bit moody, but reliable. Almost like a father figure, if he'd been older, of course. But this Danny in front of me now, this Danny, was different. He was approaching me as an equal, and judging from the tension in his hands, he was nervous. Set your teeth on edge, have I? That's about right.
It doesn't bother me.
I smiled and tried to put him at ease. Why didn't you tell me before? Isn't it obvious? I'm your friend, Danny. We're friends. I'm not going to judge you because of something you did in the past. You've been nothing but kind to me. Well, up until now. Now I know you've been lying to me. Frankly, I'm hurt. I grinned at him and he seemed utterly bewildered. I'm sorry? I didn't mean to upset you. Hey, I'm not upset. I'm just trying to explain this to you. I'm not going to judge you based on the past. Whoever you were before doesn't matter. Danny is the guy I know. The new you. And as far as I can see, he's got nothing to be ashamed of. Danny suddenly placed his hand over mine and leaned across the table towards me. What? And then he kissed me.
Dang, just like that!
He pulled away, then laughed. The look on your face. It's... Sorry. Did I upset you? I didn't mean to, I just couldn't control myself. I've had my eye on you ever since you moved in, you know. You had that look about you, like there might be something there. But I didn't want to push my luck. I'm a bad apple, and you're only here for a few more months. Crash and burn is a shoo-in. But for all that, I want to be with you if you're willing to give it a go. I don't expect you to decide immediately. Just give me a chance. Think about it. All right. He beamed. Great. Now let's get you back to the hostel before one of the lads in here gets some idea about stealing you away.
Nice.
This talk ended well. Thank you, Flynn. You're truly remarkable. He shook his head. Anyways, I'll give you some space. I'm sure I'm coming on terribly strong. Have a good night, Flynn. He crossed the hall and went into his room. I shut my door and stumbled over to my bed. So, not only was he some kind of ex-convict, but he also had feelings for me? How did I feel about Danny? Did I want to pursue a relationship with him, especially now that I knew the truth? But even now, I didn't know the whole truth. What if he had hurt someone in the past? Did I want to entrust my safety and my heart to a man like that? It was all too much. Suddenly exhausted, I crawled under my covers and closed my eyes. In no time, I was asleep.
Alright, well that played out slightly differently. That's interesting.
I had been in England for more than 2 months now. There were a lot of things I missed about New York. Decent pizza and pastrami, for example. But I was also getting pretty comfortable in my new environment. I was definitely seeing new things and meeting new people, but I hadn't, at this point, achieved the goal that Nene and Jinsu were so eager for me to. I wasn't officially dating anyone. Did I want to be?
Yeah.
Danny had left the ball in my court. He made it clear that he was interested in me, but that it was up to me if I wanted to take things any further. And the truth was, I did. Whether that was dangerous or not, I wasn't entirely sure, but nothing in life came without risk. I liked him. I was attracted to him. He trusted me. Those sounded like the ingredients for at least the start of a relationship. I knocked on Danny's door, but no one was there. Eventually, I tracked him down outside the hostel. Danny? Hey, Flynn. I wanted to tell you. I've been thinking things over, and I've never been with a guy before. Actually, I've never been with anyone. Oh, really? I was never Mr. Popular back home. Seems hard to believe. You get along well enough with everyone here. Did he always have to be so nice? It made me feel awkward. Well, then maybe I never met the right person. I don't know. I just wanted you to know that I don't really know what I'm doing. But I think I would like to pursue things with you. Well then. He took a step closer to me. For a second, I was acutely aware of the strength of his body, strength that could crush me in a moment if he chose. Then he kissed me very gently. Thank you for trusting me. I will be careful with you. We'll take things slow. If at any point you feel uncomfortable, tell me and I'll back off. For now, how about a date? Say on Saturday. Sounds good to me. I put my hand in his. It felt good letting him take control. Perhaps this was what I had wanted all along.
Okay, I'm really curious about this date. Because I think our first date with him as Malia, we went hiking, and she, like, twisted her ankle, and he carried her up the mountain. I mean, I can safely believe that Danny could carry Flynn up the mountain, because he's ripped, man. But it would be nice if there was, like, some alternate date stuff going on. We'll find out.
I sat on my bed in the hostel feeling a little out of sorts. With no classes this week because of the half-term break, I had extra time on my hands. I just wasn't quite sure what to do with it. I did wish I could have gone home for a visit. It would be nice to catch up with Jinsu and Nene and let them know how my adventure had been going so far. Right, I should call them later this evening when the time difference would make it reasonable. But that was for later. What should I do with my time now and for the rest of this week?
Let's explore.
Right. London was full of sights and inspirations. I'd only scratched the surface so far. Now that the weather was getting nicer, I should go for a walk along the Thames. There was an official path that led past landmarks and everything. I hadn't been to the Victoria and Albert Museum at all yet, and there were plenty of other museums to stop by. And if I got really lucky, I heard you could sometimes score discount theater tickets on the night of a show, as long as you didn't really care what show you were going to see. No time to lie around. I had culture to see. This break was only 1 week, after all.
So I was on my laptop for the entire week.
I lay back in my bed enjoying a lazy morning. Today was St. Patrick's Day. Back home, it would be an excuse for people to paint themselves green and hit the bars and get totally wasted. At least people who were old enough to drink. Here in England I was old enough, but I wasn't sure that was really how I wanted to spend my day or my limited budget. Sure, I could drop into the Crafty Crown and see if Ashley would hook me up, but it wasn't really fun to drink where I worked. Besides, I didn't want to get her into trouble. Well, London certainly wasn't short on pubs. Maybe I should go out and find somewhere different, just for comparison. But I was definitely not going to get myself puking drunk. I had more sense than that.
Reminds me of when Malia got super drunk on Angelo's route. That was so funny. Okay, we're still doing the hiking date. Gotcha.
Be careful on your way up. Danny peeked over the edge of the grassy peak he was on, pointing to a pothole in the trail I was currently walking. Okay, I will. You can't come to England and not see any of the actual countryside. That was what Danny had insisted. So here we were, far from London, in some place called the Downs, which might just as well be called the Ups. Danny, being spry and active, was already at the top waiting for me. I was huffing and puffing down below. Why did I ever stop exercising regularly? At home I started and stopped exercising in random bursts according to some sport or activity I wanted to get better at. Now I was really feeling it. Flynn, be careful. I am! Oh! I hit the ground with a heavy thud, feeling something in my ankle pop. Pain flooded my leg and I cried out in pain. What happened? Danny was down the slope before I had time to call for him. I half believed he slid down its surface, but that would have been insane, and crouched in front of me. Don't move. He placed a hand on my ankle and leg, then let out a low sigh. Oh, thank goodness. You just twisted it. It doesn't look serious enough to be a sprain, but I'd rather not risk you walking much on it. Oh. I turned my head away. What's wrong? Nothing. It's stupid. I was nearly at the top, and now I won't get to see the view. It makes the whole thing seem like a waste. Whoa!
Dang. Okay, Danny wrapped... sorry.
Danny wrapped his arms around me and pulled me up, supporting most of my weight while I balanced on my good foot.
Not carrying me up the mountain. Okay, he's not that ripped. Gotcha.
Not on my watch. Lean on me. If you can't make it, let me know. I'll carry you. Come on, man. I'm way too heavy for that. Is that a challenge? Feeling the strength of his arms around me, I began to believe that he could really do it. Several minutes later, we reached the top of the hill. Danny set me down in a safe place on the cliff's edge and sat down next to me. It's a great view, isn't it? Yeah, it's amazing. I gazed across the gently rolling hills. Almost everything was shades of green, with square fields marked off by thin, dark boundaries of hedges and trees. Far away, I could see a cluster of houses that must have been a village. Some parts of rural New York look a bit like this, I think. But mostly we have more trees, more wilderness. It seems like every part of England is owned and controlled by people, even out here. Nothing's really wild. I guess it's because the country is smaller and it's been settled for so long. There are a few wild places, but they have to be pretty hard to get to or someone would have tamed them already. You should try the far points of Scotland, or maybe Wales. I'll bet you don't have any bears, though. No. No bears. No big cats either, though there's rumors every now and then. No poisonous snakes. We are the most dangerous animals in England. You could probably fight a bear off with your hands. You're very strong. There's not much to do when you're locked up except lift weights. I tried to control my urge to shiver. I wasn't scared of him. He'd been nothing but good to me. But when he talked about being dangerous, I didn't know how to feel. So, have you had a good spring break? I didn't see you around much. I needed a bit of a break from revising. Been out and about a lot. Like this. I wondered if you'd gone to see your family. He stiffened. Do you still see them? You've never talked about them. There's not much to say. No. I'm not on speaking terms with most of my blood. I've got a gran I see sometimes. That's all. I'm better this way. Too many bad memories on both sides. I'm building a new life now. I hope it's a happy one. It is, as long as you're with me. Danny, come here. He leaned towards me obligingly and I kissed his cheek with a smile. I'm a lucky guy to have someone like you. Danny smiled at me, a hint of mischief in his eyes. Why, I'm the best man there is. Don't you ever think different? The spring semester break was over and classes were on again. That didn't really mean so much for the university. No huge changes were going to happen. Classes would go on the same as they ever did. For me, though, it meant that my time in England was a bit less than half over. I had the rest of the semester, then final exams, and a couple of extra weeks at the end to enjoy my vacation, and then I would leave. Maybe I would be able to come back to England someday, or maybe that would be the end forever. I didn't know. I had met a lot of people here. I had my group of relationships, and I probably wasn't going to make strong bonds with anyone new. My path was set. From here on out, I would be seeing the results of my choices so far. Well, let's get to it. A passing gentleman blinked at me talking to myself, but he didn't say anything. Of course he didn't. The British hated to raise a fuss, after all. I couldn't help laughing quietly as I went on my way to class.